Segment number 2. I'm Jennifer Fierro, your broad podcaster here in the Highland Lakes, joined with Daniel Clifton, who covers Canyon Lake football for us. And Daniel, I know we've covered Burnett and the Hawks in the first segment. This one we're going to devote as much as we can to the Mustangs, talk about what happened with them and Taylor. So it was very interesting because Taylor came into the Mustang Stadium last Friday night in the same position the Mustangs were in. Both teams were seeking their first win in district play. At that time, and it's still true, I really thought that the winner of that game still had everything in front of them in terms of controlling their own destiny and getting into the playoffs. Marble Falls probably needed a little more help just because I believe Taylor had already played Davenport and they had already played Lampasas going into that. And the Marble Falls had played Canyon Lake and Barnett going into last week's game. So what I saw from Taylor that really impressed me, they were able to run the football some, but they have two twin boys, and I had both of them playing quarterback. Well, one of them, they moved him to receiver and put the other one in at quarterback. And when that happened, everything just started to open up for Taylor. Now, I did talk to Coach Flowers at the end of the game, and I almost wrote this in the copy. In a lot of ways, I felt like the Ducks just had some dumb luck. So they go 3 down and punt on their opening possession. Marble, I think, punts back. No, they do a fake punt and don't get it. Canyon Lake takes over at midfield. They are on their way to scoring. The kid is on the Mustang 1 yard line and he fumbles the ball. Marble Falls recovers. Jamie Castillo takes the handoff because I think they run a play and get to about the 11. Jamie gets the handoff, goes right up the middle, 80-something yards for the touchdown. And actually, I don't need to guess. Again, TexasChalkTalk.com has the game story. He goes 89 yards for the touchdown for the 7-0 lead. From there, Canyon Lake comes back.
Taylor, right?
Taylor. I'm sorry. Taylor comes back. They turn the ball over on downs. Hang on just a second. Better look at this one more time. So I don't believe Taylor scores at that point. Then, so Marble Falls has a lead here. Well, Taylor comes back and they put up 10 points in the second quarter. So Marble also scores, and it's a 14-10 game at the half. Marble Falls is leading. Well, again, Taylor ends up scoring on, and this has been happening a lot. I think I told you the last 2 minutes of the first half for the Mustangs, the last few games have been really hard for them because they end up giving up, a late touchdown or some sort of end up giving up points. Well, that was the same thing that happened here against Taylor because Taylor scores, I think they scored with about 8 minutes left in the half. They get a field goal out of it, and then with 30 seconds left in the half, they score a touchdown. And so it's a 14-10 game at the half, and then that just triggers an avalanche of scoring. So they just score, and I think I wrote down in my notes, they scored on 7 consecutive drives, 5 drives in the second half. And the one drive that they didn't score on is because they took a knee. They had the ball on the last drive of the game. The thing that stood out to me about Taylor, and I saw what Coach Herman said when he talked about the quarterback, how precise he was, pocket passer, moved away from the pass rush, was able to throw with accuracy, had a great arm, threw into some tight windows. The other thing that stood out to me is that Taylor had a kid, Braylon Alderate. He was a cross between a fullback and a tight end. And he was tall. They lined him up in the slot, and he just went right up the middle on short passes. And he could carry a couple of Mustangs with him. He was a because and I asked Coach Flowers about him. Coach Flowers called him the hybrid because he really is a cross between a fullback. So he has all of that brute strength, but great hands, and he has the height of a tight end. Just a matchup issue for just about every team out there. What stood out to me about him, and the reason I talked about him, see, he only had 4 catches for 45 yards. He wasn't that big of a factor, but he would catch a 9 yard pass, 18-yard pass. It seemed like he was always open for a short pass that he turned into a positive gain, and that allowed them to move the defense, especially the secondary, go one on one with the secondary, and really get the matchups they wanted one on one. And of course, I had Canyon Lake.
Taylor.
Let's see. Taylor. I keep saying that. Taylor, 23-yard touchdown, 80-yard touchdown, 65-yard touchdown, 25-yard touchdown on a run, 66-yard touchdown. All of the big ones are passing touchdowns. So, and that's what I mean when you have the one-on-one and then you have the speed to be able to go do that. That's what really impressed me about Taylor. Defensively, Jamie is always going to be tough for people to cover because he's so fast and he runs with such fierceness and force. And I think most teams are not willing to give up. They're gonna pick their poison. Jamie's so big and strong, most teams are not going to be able to stop him. But they are finding a way to contain the rest of the running game and the slot T offense. And in that sense, with Marble Falls now staring down the barrel of playing the top 2 teams in the district, I'm curious if the Mustangs are going to throw anything any different.
Yeah.
And I don't know. So that's where I'm at on it. It will be very interesting to see what happens with Taylor this week because Taylor is hosting Canyon Lake. And when I talked to Coach Flowers about that, I caught him after he got the score from Canyon Lake. So he was well aware of the Burnett score from Canyon Lake. And in his mind, the team that wins in Taylor this week between Taylor and Canyon Lake is going to get that playoff spot. So there is more than just those 2 teams' playoff berths riding on that particular ball game. We can get into that in the next segment because I believe that's where everybody's going to be staring. That's what everybody wants to know for what it's worth. Do you have anything you want to ask me about the Marble Falls game?
Yeah, how did what did Taylor do that really confounded the Mustangs? Was it just that weird? They just kept opening it up and running, and it seems like they had a really good attack plan.
They did, and where I thought that's why I call it dumb luck.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the first quarter, see Taylor's receivers dropped 2 balls that they caught and just went right down their chest and dropped. 2 of them that forced them to either turn the ball over on downs or punt the ball. It wasn't so much that, I hate to say it this way, but it looked to me like Taylor stopped themselves. They stopped themselves. And I agree with Coach Herman at 14-10, you have the score low. That's what Marble Falls wants going into every ball game. They don't want to be, what am I trying to say? 35-7 at halftime. The slot T is not an offense to me that can come back from that. I think back to Kerrville, Tivy, and Brownwood. Those games by halftime, they're up by 4 or 5 touchdowns. The slot T to me is not an offense that is designed to come back from deficits like that.
Yeah.
But at 14-10, 10-7, 10-0, you're right there. But that puts a lot of pressure on your defense to keep pitching the shutout and not allowing the other team to score. But more than that, your offense has to be able to stay on the field. So let's talk about that. Marble Falls gets the opening drive of the second half. Okay? They go down and they score, right? And they score in the first 2 minutes of the third quarter. Taylor comes back and scores. Marble Falls goes 3 and out on their second possession of the second half. Taylor goes down and scores. Marble Falls goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 play drive that they end up punting on.
Oh.
Okay. So then Taylor gets the ball, 3 plays, they score. Marble Falls gets the ball back. They end up punting. Taylor, 1 play, score. Marble Falls, 1, 2, 3, 4 plays. Looks like they scored a touchdown here. So in that sense, and then Taylor gets the ball, they go down and score. Marble Falls throws an interception, and then with 3:20 left, Taylor just runs the clock out. But that's what I mean. If your offense is not on the field, because that 13 play drive, that's about what slot T coaches want to see. But you got to be able to punch it in. You can't hold the ball for that long and not put points on the board. You have to be able to score. And that's the challenge of being in a slot T offense, because that Marble Falls got the ball with 2:55 left in the third quarter. They punt the ball with 8:40 left in the game. So Marble Falls has the ball for 7 minutes, right around 7 minutes. And there's no, is that right? Let's see, 9 minutes, 9 plus, let's see, is that right? 3 and 3, maybe 6 minutes. Marble Falls has the ball for about 6 minutes and doesn't get anything. That's the challenge of the slot T. That's the, call it what you want. And people will say, I've heard people say this, you're just a fan of this scheme, or you just like this scheme, or you don't like that scheme. You know what I'm a fan of? And in the spirit of full disclosure, I am a die-hard Texas fan. You know what I'm a fan of? Winning.
Winning?
Winning. Not a scheme. I am a fan of winning. I love any scheme that wins. Okay? If that Mac Brown and Davis's bubble passes from the left and the right, and they can win and win a national title, awesome. If that's Steve Sarkisian's vertical game where he goes right up the seam and wins at Alabama, I'm a fan of winning. Because I'm somebody who believes that if you can get your players to buy into your scheme, if they will believe in what you are teaching them, and if you can buy into that, they're going to do well. I don't know that the Mustangs 2 years ago were all in on the slot T, but by the looks of it, they certainly were. You 3 rounds of the playoffs, it looks like you are. I don't know. I don't know. I can only speak to what I see today, but I will tell you that 6 minute drive, that's exactly what Coach Herman and his staff were talking about. 14-10 at half, you're right there. That's exactly what they're talking about. But at some point, there's just no sport I covered that rewards finishing more than football. You have to be able to finish. And that's really the head scratcher for the Mustangs. How can they finish? And then this is a bad time, Daniel. And we'll get into that in the third segment. In my opinion, it's just a bad time to catch slam passes. It really is.
Yeah.
Coming off of a blowout loss to Davenport where you're playing for a district championship. It's just a bad time. So anything else you want to talk about before we head on to the next segment?
No, I think that's good.
Okay. We're going to close this one out and we're going to redo. Let's look at District 13 4A Division 1, talk about the playoffs, and kind of get people ready to go with 2 games left in the regular season. He's Daniel Clifton. I'm Jennifer Farrow, your broad podcaster here in the Highland Lakes. We're going to go now to segment number 3.